Hey everyone, George here, the Disney Italiano, coming to you with another Citrus Corner. Yes, folks, we are back with a Citrus Corner. It's been a while. OG and I are going to watch and review this video of attraction ideas. He gives a great take on the state of Disney's Hollywood Studios Park down at Walt Disney World. And he has some thought process on how Disney is managing the park. But yeah, we're going to get into it as we do best. Coming up on Citrus Corner, part of OG 55. Let's go. Welcome back, folks, to another Citrus Corner. As I said, I'm George, the Disney Italiano, your host with the most. And yeah, as I said in the intro, we're going to do, as we always do here on OG 55, we like to review other people's content, give our own personal thought process on it. But before I do that, I got to introduce my bro, my partner in crime, the OG himself, Mr. Orange Grove 55. How you doing today, sir?
Very good, George. Great to be on Citrus Corner, talking shop with you all about Hollywood Studios. This is actually like my first time really diving into this particular content creator, Attraction Ideas, but very interesting video, and we're going to break it down with our audience. And yeah, I'm really into what he does. So I'm very curious to see what our audience thinks about him. So yeah, looking forward to it. And
now your host,
the Italiano.
Thank you, good sir. And yeah, so let's get right into it. I think it's going to be an interesting. I started watching this. I didn't get to finish it, but I thought it was an interesting take on how this individual sees how this park goes. And there's stuff that I do agree with it. There's stuff that I don't agree about with it. But you know, we love to talk about it. It's great conversation, and definitely check it out, folks. You know, for yourselves. It's Attraction Ideas. Do as we always do. Hit that subscribe button and that like button. It always helps our fellow content creators out, and we always appreciate it in the community. So as we do it here on OG 55, we're gonna watch it, review it, and then we stop along the way and discuss it. So while we get it.
Let's go. And I have the Kendrick Lamar down here. So even when we're doing a video in Florida, we still keep it California over here at OG55.
Woke up looking for the broccoli.
There we go. All right, here we go. Let's start.
We don't respect the West Coast though, bro.
Oh, you got to respect the West Coast, George.
Yeah. Oh, so y'all ain't gonna let nobody disrespect the West Coast, huh?
There we go. We love Kendrick. Absolute treasure. Here we go.
Has perhaps undergone the most amount of change over the past decade or so throughout the entire Orlando market. And yet, despite all these shiny, brand new attractions and lands being added to Hollywood Studios, the park still somehow faces several major core fundamental issues that affect the guest experience on a daily basis. It seems that whenever this park adds something new, though it does improve the park in some way, shape, or form, it either, one, introduces new problems that the park previously didn't have, or reinforces old issues that have been plaguing the park for years. And I have to say, when looking at Hollywood Studios' future slate of attractions, it really feels like history very well may be repeating itself. Because when you think about what the sort of fundamental goals or objectives are behind adding a new attraction to a theme park, really, there's a short-term goal and there's a long-term goal. The short-term goal is usually just to build up excitement for the park. Hey, you have something new that's going to incentivize new people to visit your park for the first time, and more importantly, get people who have been in the past to make a return trip. But in the long term, these attractions should have the goal and should have the aim to improve the park experience in a meaningful way and address any of the core issues that the park is facing. That could range from ride quality or brand relevance, but really, when it comes to Hollywood Studios, they have two core issues that have been plaguing the park for quite literally decades at this point. For one, Hollywood Studios has a severe lack of things to do, especially when compared.
Which he's right, and which is weird to me because Hollywood Studios has the most catch-all theme of all the other parks. So it's like Hollywood, you can literally put any IP in this park. You would think this of all parks would have the most attractions because everything literally fits this theme.
That is true. And that's what I've been saying for quite some time, that Hollywood Studios is the smallest out of the 4 theme parks, but yet it has, I believe, like the less of like what to do, and yet it's the one of the most popular parks. I mean, aside from Magic Kingdom, if you look at those wait times for Rise of the Resistance, Slinky Dog, Tower of Terror, I mean, sometimes they can hit up into like the 140-minute wait mark. I mean, and it's because, again, they are popular, but it's because all these people that flock into this park, there's only so much that you can do. So everyone just goes towards the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said.
Compared to their contemporaries in the Orlando theme park market. This park only has 9 rides, which puts it in 3rd among Walt Disney World theme parks, but it also puts behind both existing Universal Orlando theme parks.
Real quick, let me go back to that graphic real quick. Okay, so yeah, 9 rides, right? But here's the thing, Animal Kingdom has 7. Animal Kingdom, though, in my opinion, which Animal Kingdom is actually my favorite. As a Californian who's only been to Disney World once, Animal Kingdom was my absolute favorite. And I think a park like Animal Kingdom with so many vibes and so much aesthetics can get away with that ride count. I know a lot of normies won't agree with me on that, but I think that the vibe of that park is an attraction in and of itself, really. Like, it's just fun just to even walk around, in my opinion. But Hollywood Studios doesn't really have that. It's not like a super aesthetically impressive park. And so when you don't have the aesthetics, the vibes that like Animal Kingdom has, and on top of that, you really don't have that many rides, you're not left with a whole lot to do, you know? So...
And I think that's Disney, and really, no, actually, I'll take that back. I wouldn't even say just Disney. I feel like that's where a lot of theme parks that go towards that studio-esque type of theme is kind of hurting. Now, with Universal Hollywood, it fits in a way because it is actually still currently a working studio.
Right.
You know, where a lot of films were based and filmed and what have you. They just built a theme park around it. When you take Hollywood Studios at Disney and Universal Studios Orlando, we even know that they did film things here like in the past, but the market for guest experience to go into a park that's based off of a studio lot is not really what the demographic is looking for nowadays. It worked in the 80s and the 90s, but it's not really the big seller. You know, people want to go to a theme park to have immersive experiences, not to pull back the curtain and see how the movie making process is.
Yeah. And this is a very universal kind of format for theme parks. And Michael Eisner literally wanted this park to actually respond to Universal. So he built Disney's version of a Universal park, which is fine, but audiences now are kind of beyond that. Guests are beyond that now. So now they're having to go in there and kind of reinvent these parks. Even Universal is doing the same thing with their Hollywood parks. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to, like, we have Universal Hollywood out here. They're not doing the whole backstage, you know, behind the scenes stuff anymore. It's really mostly Wizarding World, Super Nintendo, you know what I'm saying? Even like Fast and Furious. They're going in a completely different direction. Yeah, you still got the tram tour, which is amazing. I love the tram tour, but that whole like soundstage kind of thing, they're not doing that anymore. So
puts behind both existing Universal Orlando theme parks as well as Epic Universe when it opens, which is crazy to think. But even when we extend this list out to feature all attractions, not just rides, but all attractions at the park, Hollywood Studios still finds itself in a very comfortable 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, yes, it does likely have less rides than Epic Universe on opening day, but Epic Universe has its own share of issues. We talked about a lot here on the channel. A lot of people don't talk about Epic Universe's problems, but everything in that park, or most of the things in that park, attraction-wise, are outdoors. And it rains a lot. Florida gets weather, okay? We don't get weather out here in California. Not really. I mean, you know, sometimes we do, but very rarely. Florida gets it every day. So every time you guys have a thunderstorm or whatever, right? I mean, you're shutting things down. Majority of the park is closed. You know,
three attractions at Epic Universe will be indoors. That is it.
That's it. So yeah, Epic Universe has its own share of issues. We talked about that in a recent video, but that is still, I mean, regardless, that is crazy though. It'll open with more than Hollywood Studios has.
Place among Disney World parks. But this number doesn't really tell the whole story about just how bad things are at Hollywood Studios. Because yes, it already looks like it's way off the number that Epcot has. But you gotta remember that on top of those attractions, Epcot also has a ton of food and drink locations that are central to its core offerings, right? Most people spend a ton of time out of their day doing those types of experiences. And Animal Kingdom, though on paper has 2 less attractions than Hollywood Studios, when you consider that one of those attractions is, the animals, which literally inhabit so much of this park that you could spend your entire day just looking at animal exhibits if you so wanted to. Really, even Animal Kingdom has more things to do than Hollywood Studios, because when we look at all these attractions at Hollywood Studios, unlike Epcot, which has the food and drink stuff that you could spend literally all day doing if you wanted to, or Animal Kingdom, which has the animal exhibits that you could spend all day doing if you wanted to, Hollywood Studios doesn't have anything like that. They just have rides and shows. That's pretty much their entire attraction lineup, meaning that the longest that any of these experiences are realistically going to be is about 30 minutes, excluding any wait time that you have to have for these attractions, which brings me to the next issue. As sort of by proxy of not having a lot of things to do, this park also does not have a lot of capacity. It is a tremendous lack of capacity, in fact. So much so that, of course, it has some of the worst wait times across any theme park, not just in Orlando, not just at Disney, but literally maybe even the entire world. Despite this park not having very much for you to do, the fact of the matter is that you will be hard-pressed to get everything done in one day, because the wait times are always absurd. Of course, not only is there not that many attractions that can provide capacity, but most of the attractions in this park don't even have that much capacity to begin with. And this has been the story of Hollywood Studios for a long time now. Not a whole lot to do, and you have to wait forever to do anything. But we're not here to dwell on the past, folks. What we're here to talk about is the future. Does Disney's new attraction lineup coming to this park actually tackle these core issues that have absolutely hindered the guest experience for years now? So why don't we go ahead and walk through these additions one by one, starting with perhaps the most consequential, the biggest addition the park will be getting, that being a brand new Monsters, Inc. land. And I have to say, from a quality perspective, this land does look rather promising. I have to say it. I mean, headlining this land is going to be a Monsters, Inc. indoor roller coaster, highly themed attraction that seems like it could be very cool, very fun, and very unique at the Disney World Resort. Plus, they're also bringing to life the Harryhausen's restaurant from the film, which I'm telling you right now, if they could deliver here on high quality food and highly themed food to the Monsters, Inc. world for that matter, I'm telling you, dude, reservations will be sold out at this place every single day. It's not even going to be a question. But does this land address either of this park's core fundamental issues? I'd be lying if I said this park is lacking in high quality attractions. Between Tower of Terror and Rise of the Resistance and Toy Story Mania, this park already has plenty of high quality attractions. That's not the problem. The problem is these two things on screen right now. So the question is Monsters, Inc. land going to actually tackle and address these issues? Well, to be honest, to answer that, we have to look at where the land is going.
Right.
And it is going to be replacing Muppet Courtyard, home of course, Muppet Vision 3D. And I have to say, folks, unequivocally, undeniably, this is a terrible decision. This is a horrible spot to put this land. Now, listen, yes, I will admit, I am a big Muppets fan, but I can assure you that is not clouding my judgment here, because I will admit, I'll be the first to admit that Muppet Courtyard definitely has low attendance. Muppet Vision 3D has low attendance, and they should be on the chopping block for a replacement at some point. I do not think that right now was the moment to attack Muppets, because there were two better locations, drastically better locations to put this land. For one, hey, ever heard of an expansion, Disney? You ever heard of it? It'd be real nice if you expanded this park. You want to talk about both of these issues? A lack of things to do and
But here's the thing, we've done, and I get what he's saying. I mean, and I love his content actually. This is really good stuff. But here's the issue, though, like from a fan perspective, like you, me, and him, right?
Right.
We don't have, and Drew the Disney dude, our friend Drew, mentioned this on our channel and his channel, I believe too, as well. Mm-hmm. We're not privy to all the information. So he's going into this like, well, why don't you expand? Why not outside the park boundaries? I mean, on paper, that makes a lot of sense, and I don't necessarily disagree with him, but we're only seeing the current plans for the next 5 years. We don't know what the 10-year plan is or the 15-year plan is. Disney might have this area earmarked for something completely different that hasn't been announced yet. So Disney knows the chessboard. We don't know the whole chessboard. So we're seeing this through the lens of very limited information as fans. So yes, on paper, yeah, by all means, just put it here. But right here might be something else. Right there might be Incredibles land coming out in 6-7 years that they want to put there. You know what I'm saying? So what say you, George? I know we've talked about that, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. This was one of the topics of the video that I respectfully disagree with, to the fact of, yeah, it's so easy that they could have put Monsters Inc. in this expansion pad, which would actually be cutting into some of the parking lot for the park, which I'm okay with them doing it. I feel like that the parking lot is massive for Hollywood Studios, and I think Disney can afford to utilize some of that land for expanding the park. Because as I said, where Hollywood Studios is located in the resort itself, it's kind of gridlocked between a lot of the resort hotels and other amenities around it. So there's not too much space for expansion for the park, but there are some hidden gems like the piece of parking lot that they can utilize. But do they want to use it for Monsters Inc.? Obviously not, because they would have done it. And I think there is a legitimate reason as to why, because Disney has greater plans for that piece of land. And he also dives into the second part of a possible location that they could have utilized for Monsters Inc. But again, just like how we talked about with Drew, there's a second half of this. And also Drew brought it to our attention the most current time that we recorded with him, that Disney stated that the second half of this investment is going to be even more kind of grandiose on the spending expenditure than what actually is going on now. And we even got a lot now. So right. I can't imagine what the second half is gonna bring us.
Exactly. So we're just not dealing with all the information. So as fans, it looks easy. Yeah, just put it there, but we don't have all the information. We don't know what they want to do after this first 5 years. So that does make a difference.
The lack of capacity, you want to know how you address that in one fell swoop? You expand the park. You add to the guest areas. You add 2 new attractions instead of replacing attractions. And now all of a sudden, you have more things to do and way more capacity. You've solved the issue. Whoa, with just one simple decision. But no, okay, you can't be bothered to do that. Of course, you do have land to expand to in the parking lot. You could go there, but no, no, we couldn't be bothered doing that. And of course, you could have also went to Animation Courtyard, which is basically a parking lot because nobody goes there. It's complete ghost town. And all it houses is Star Wars Launch Band, the Disney Junior stage show that nobody goes to see. So why is this still standing when Muppets is going to take the fall for this? I have no idea. But in all fairness to the Monsters Inc. land.
And that's why he has no idea, and neither do I. Neither do you. And I think there's more to it than just... When you look at this stuff through the lens of limited information, it doesn't make any sense. Disney is not a stupid corporation. They haven't been around for over 100 years because they're stupid. Clearly, there is a plan here with these other areas. Like obviously, Animation Courtyard isn't going to be here in 20 years. Okay, clearly there's something that's going to be put there, but we don't know that yet. We don't know what that's going to be. So they're not putting Monsters there because it's for something else that just hasn't been announced yet, or so I don't know. It's very easy, I think, to sort of sit back and sort of like do the whole like, well, just put it there thing. But when we don't know all the information, it's not really fair. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say I completely agree with you, and it's to the fact of, yes, something as big as Monsters Inc. We could say, oh man, they have so much land, they could put it, into the piece of the parking lot, or they can put it in Animation Courtyard. Yes, that is very true, but there could be something much more bigger and grander than even what they're bringing with Monstropolis, and to the notion, it's like a giant kind of jigsaw puzzle. You kind of have to move each pieces around to see which piece fits best. And for Monsters Inc., for Disney, it fits best replacing Muppets Courtyard, depending on what now they're going to be placing in these other expansion pad areas. Now, I will say that I do agree with him on the notion where Disney does have to get into the realm of actually expanding out, which they are, eventually going to do that with Magic Kingdom and what have you. But I hope that Disney kind of continues that trend to obviously, if they have to replace something, so be it, but to keep on adding more to add capacity. I do agree with him on that.
Yes, and here's the thing too. In terms of Muppets, I think it's a beloved franchise. I love the Muppets to death. I think they're hilarious. They are literally a national treasure, okay? The Muppets are amazing. And this dude right here, this Muppet right here has my same hairstyle. So how could I hate them, But this is the thing. We are losing a 3D movie, which I get it, Jim Henson's last piece of work, which they already said will live on beyond this park, okay? So we're not losing it necessarily. It's going to live on somewhere else. But you're replacing a 3D experience with an actual roller coaster themed to Muppets. This will be the first actual attraction, not a 3D film, that we're going to get for the Muppets. That's exciting. So I think fans also need to take off their nostalgia glasses a little bit with this stuff and look at things like the reality on the ground. The reality on the ground is we're getting rid of a 3D movie and we're getting an actual attraction for Muppets. So that's pretty dang cool, man. And I get it, it sucks losing the old thing, but this is the thing with the Muppet stuff. You're not even really losing the old thing, because they even said that this movie will live on somewhere else, whether it be in a museum. Maybe they'll play it at the Walt Disney Family Museum in the Bay Area. Maybe it'll put it on Disney Plus. Hopefully it's more than Disney Plus, but it'll be somewhere for us to enjoy. So you're not even losing that, and you're gaining a physical Muppet attraction. I just don't see what the big kerfluffle about all this Muppet stuff is, because you're not really losing anything.
And I hate to say this, a lot of these people that are, and I get it, they're passionate about the Muppets. That's perfect. But at the same time, when was the last time that they actually went in and saw Muppet Vision 3D? As much as, yes, the film needs to be preserved, it is a treasure, but I feel like that it's a treasure in a lot of people's minds to know that it's just sitting there stagnant. Right. Whether people are experiencing it or not, it's okay, well, Disney can't touch it, even though it's not popular because of X, Y, and Z. And I get it. Yes, we definitely have to retain it. The legacy of Jim Henson, I completely agree with that. But Disney, again, as a business, they have to look forward to the future. And it's like, what is best for the parks moving forward?
Exactly.
There is another sort of underlying positive here, is the fact that it isn't necessarily just a one-for-one replacement of Muppet Courtyard, as indeed the Monsters Inc. roller coaster will be built on expansion land in the parking lot, meaning that we will actually get a +1 attraction in this park with the addition of this ride. And instead, Muppet Vision 3D will be rethemed to a new Monsters Inc. show of some kind. So even though this new land will not tackle these two core fundamental issues quite as much as maybe it could have if it was an expansion or took over Animation Courtyard, by adding this new ride in an expansion plot and only replacing one attraction.
I think for me personally, the bigger issue with a lot of these new things coming into Hollywood studios is that they're all thrilling. Like, you have this coaster, which, I mean, I'm sure it'll be somewhat family friendly because it's monsters, but is your grandma going to go on this thing? Probably not. Is OG going to go on this thing? Probably not. Like I'm not a big coaster person. Like, and do I really want to? I mean, this is not for everybody. And then you have the Muppet thing, which is Rock and Roller Coaster, which again is another coaster. So I personally would love to see like, I don't know. I mean, I know they just got Mickey and Minnie's, but I think this park needs more of those kind of attractions.
More like family friendly based.
Well, yeah. I mean, you have this. You have the Muppet Rock and Roller Coaster. You have the Hollywood Tower of Terror. It's a lot of fast shit. Like there's not a whole lot of just like chill, like boat ride kind of things that like everyone can just go on. I don't know. I think that's really what they're missing more than anything is just everybody rides. It's a lot of fast stuff. And a lot of shows, like stage show stuff. I think it needs more like just like Omni Mover, everybody dark rides, and it's really lacking that in that department.
Attraction 1-for-1, you are still getting an increase in capacity and an increase in things to do with this new land. So though the decision to replace the Muppets is mistimed, I do think there is some silver linings to this new land. Speaking of silver linings, though the Muppets were kicked out of Muppet Courtyard, they haven't necessarily been fully evicted. Instead, they've been moved over to Rock and Roller Coaster, as the roller coaster will be rethemed from Aerosmith to the Muppets. Now, this is certainly nice because the Muppets get to stay in the park. Rock and Roller Coaster gets a fresh theme, gets a little bit of a refer.
Yeah, the more I'm like thinking about it, that is true. That literally one attraction is getting revamped and one is being added, and they're both roller coasters. And again, Hollywood Studios is known for it being like the thrill ride kind of out of all four of the parks, and I get that, but I do think they do need some as our friend Ebba uses, flexibility with the different array of attractions for kids, families, for everybody. And honestly, I'm gonna make a bold prediction, and a lot of my predictions usually come true with this. But I could see that if the Coco Dark Ride is a huge hit over at DCA, I could possibly see them making a duplicate and putting it into Hollywood Studios, because Hollywood Studios, just like DCA, has a bigger influence of Pixar, aside from the Cars area that's going into Magic Kingdom. But for majority of the factor, a lot of Pixar is ingrained in this park.
Yeah. No, I would love to see something like that. Even if it's not Coco, even if it's something else, but a boat ride in this park would do wonders. Even if they were to do something like a Transformers kind of ride, like where it's not necessarily like super crazy intense, it's thrilling, but it's not like crazy. That would be welcome. But it's just, yeah, man, it's like Rock and Roller Coaster, Tower of Terror, like even this suspended Monsters Inc. thing. It's like, I don't know. I think you need a little more variety in here.
It's just a thing.
It's a thing, bro.
Refurbishment and gets a fresh coat of paint, right? That seems like an all-around positive thing. And yeah, it is a good thing, generally speaking.
Things, bro.
But it doesn't really address either of these issues. And doesn't make sense, really, for us to be spending money on a project like this, given the fact that Rock and Roller Coaster spent several months closed across both 2023 and 2024. It went down for refurbishment in 2023 for several months. That refurbishment didn't work. The ride was like still facing issues. They had to close it again for several months in 2024. If you visited the park in those years, there's a very good chance you did not get to ride Rock and Roller Coaster because it was probably closed. It's hard to really get excited about this ride closing again for the third time. It will be probably 3 or 4 years for an even longer time than it was closed during these refurbishments. Meaning that in regard to the capacity issue of this park, we're going to get all the drawbacks and all the negatives of having this ride closed for a year or so while this retheme is taking place, and none of the benefits of more capacity when the ride reopens. It's going to be the same capacity that we have been using.
For me, I mean, it very well could be a year, but I don't think it's going to take that long. I mean, I don't either. It took Imagineers to go from Tower of Terror to Mission Breakout in what?
6 months, 7 months. Well, and this isn't even a full retheme. It's more like you're just overlaying the Muppets into an already established rock theme.
Yeah.
Like it's you're not like Tower of Terror was even more expansive, like because you took a haunted hotel basically and had to turn that into this fortress power plant thing, right? Like from another galaxy. Like they're two completely different storylines, right? This isn't a completely different storyline. This is basically Rock and Roller Coaster, but you're having the Muppets sprinkled in. So I don't think it's going to take no year. I mean, the way Florida moves, maybe. I don't know. Florida loves to drag their feet with projects, you know? But I mean, it shouldn't take more than a year. I mean, they're not really doing a whole lot. I mean, and it's a fast moving roller coaster. I mean, you're not going to have a ton of animatronics in this thing, probably.
Yeah, I wouldn't think like they'd probably incorporate like the Muppets into the little Q show that would replace Aerosmith talking to the guests beyond the music booth and what have you, and then you'll probably go exit out of the building and you'll go into a back alley, but they'll have like some sort of storyline tied to it. But and then you'll hear like the Muppets singing along with like musical celebrities and what have you. Like, I don't think it would be too much. And then you just have the roller coaster itself, which of course they'll probably keep the neon lights and everything. I don't think it's going to be a really huge overlay.
No. It's kind of reminds me a little bit of San Francisco, right? Because what they did with the Pacific Wharf here in California Adventure is they took an already Bay Area, Northern California area, and then they overlaid Big Hero 6. But see, so it was already like half of the theming was already done. It was already themed to the Bay Area. All you had to do now to make it San Francisco is incorporate and infuse some of the Japanese inspiration. So it was like 50% already there. That's kind of like what this is with Rock and Roller Coaster. It's like 50% already there because the rock and roll thing is still going to be a thing with the Muppets. So all you have to do now is throw some Muppets in here and call it a day, and you're good to go.
And not to mention, let's be honest with ourselves, that Disney is doing this to ease up the tension of removing Muppet Vision 3D. This was never going to be on the plans of saying, okay, well, let's just change just out of osmosis, Rock and Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith to Rock and Roller Coaster starring the Muppets. This was kind of Disney's subtle way of like compromise.
Yes, and I think it was brilliant. Yeah, I think it was a chess move. No, it was brilliant because, and that's why I said earlier, that's why I don't understand. And actually, to be fair, Attraction Ideas actually has a really good case to be made here, with the capacity and things like that. I agree with him actually on a lot of that stuff, but a lot of the fandom, like on social media, is not going in that direction with this. It's more of an emotionally nostalgic based kind of outrage. And honestly, from that perspective, I don't know why there's all this anger, because you're not losing anything. You're not losing the Muppets. The Muppets are gaining an actual ride. It's no longer just a 3D movie. You're not losing the Muppets. They're upgrading to an actual roller coaster, and you're not even losing the 3D show. The 3D show that Jim Henson worked on, because that is going to live on. They've already said that. What are we losing here, fandom? From a pure Muppet standpoint, what are you actually losing? Nothing. With the land, I mean, is the land that special? It's a bunch of brick buildings. I mean, really, honestly, guys, like, really, is it that? We're not talking about New Orleans Square here. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah. If it was New Orleans Square, then that's a whole nother conversation would be having.
Yeah, but it's not like that Muppet Courtyard is nothing spectacular. I don't know. For me personally, I think this is an absolute fair trade-off. It's a real brilliant move, I think, on Disney's part, in terms of like the compromise aspect of it. But a lot of fans disagree.
Used to with this ride. So basically, make the park substantially worse in the short term to make it maybe slightly better in the long term. Can't say that's a great deal, especially when it's going to likely be closed at the same time as Muppet Vision 3D at some point down the line. And they're both going to be closed while Epic Universe is open. So at a time where you're going to be facing more competition than you've ever faced before, you are telling people, don't show up to Hollywood Studios, and basically are just begging them to go ahead and spend their trip at Universal. Awesome. Real genius stuff here, Disney. Speaking of re-themes or re-skins, we're also getting another one of these with Smuggler's Run. Now we're getting a new mission on it that has to do with Mandalorian and Grogu. Oh, awesome, man. That's really great. I mean, listen, folks, like that's going to be really good for Smuggler's Run. It's going to add to its rewritability. It may even make the attraction better if this mission is better than the base mission. But again, these re-themes and these reskins do not address the core issues of this park. They are basically slapping a Band-Aid onto the issue by adding something shiny and new to the park to get people excited to return. And then they return and they realize, oh, the park still sucks. Like, the park is still facing all these issues. There still is not a lot to do. There still is massive lines throughout the park. These things are not going to solve the issue. So why are we even bothering spending money on these things? I'd rather you not do these things, save up your money, and invest in things that actually address the core issues of the park. Like 2 new shows. Aha, now we're talking, Disney. That's a good one. All right. 2 brand new shows opening in 2025 at Hollywood Studios, except one of them isn't really quite brand new, that being The Voyage of the Little Mermaid. This is just a revival of a show that's been closed since 2020. It was closed during the pandemic and just never reopened. I don't know why Disney decided to never reopen it. It doesn't really make much sense to me, but hey, it's back. So it's not really added capacity, but it is returned capacity the park certainly needs. And the other show, being a villains-themed show, is replacing Lightning McQueen Racing Academy. So it is a replacement, but I do think that in effect, it may actually add capacity to the park, not because the show will have more seats in it than Lightning McQueen, but because very little people ever went to Lightning McQueen. It was not a very popular show. So this show, at least in its first few years, could have the chance to be more popular and actually eat up more guests than that show did, meaning that it will take more guests out of the rest of the park, hopefully helping to lower wait times. The only problem is, I mean, of course, this show is running up against quite a large uphill battle, as its location is terrible. It is in a dead-end corner that you have to walk right by Rock and Roller Coaster to get to. So, I mean, when we think about it, the fact that Rock and Roller Coaster is going to be closed at some point in the near future for probably give or take a year to be re-themed, there's going to be nobody over in this area of the park. There's going to be nobody walking over to the show. The show's going to be absolutely dead while Rock and Roller.
Okay, so to no offense to attraction ideas, as I said, still a great video. You know, but I have to really strongly disagree on a lot of this stuff. I feel like people that go into the parks to enjoy a day, they're not focused on where a location of a building is and how far you have to get back to it, and you have to go to this corner past this to watch. I don't think people are having that mindset of thinking. It's just like, oh, the show's over there, the attractions over there, the rides over there. Great, let's go over to it. I think that's kind of going a little bit like too deep of. I get what he's trying to say, but it's people going into these parks aren't going to have that mentality walking in the gates.
Well, you have to. Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that the normies are going to look at the map and go, oh, it's over here, and they'll walk over. It doesn't really matter. There are going to be signs all over the place that this thing is new and it's happening, commercials everywhere. They're going to go to it. Also, you know, I respectfully disagree with a lot of the complaining about the construction and this, that, and the other. It's like you want new things. Like, he's advocating for new things. I agree with him on that. Like, we should get new things. But then we're also going to complain because, well, now it's down, or now there's a wall, and now there's, you know, so it's like we kind of live in it's the real world where like construction happens. Like, so, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, that's the thing. Like, there's going to be inconveniences in the short term whenever they build anything new. I mean, out here in California, when they were completely reimagining DCA, the park was basically a maze of walls for years, dude. From 2007 to 2012, it was just a maze of walls. We didn't even have an entry. We actually entered the park through like a side entrance at one point.
I remember, because my first time ever into DCA was during when those walls were up. And literally, I never got to see, like, my first time ever in DCA, I never got to see a traditional, like, entranceway. It was basically a labyrinth that we had to walk through these in between these walls. But guess what? And that was my first time. I could have said, you know what? this is horrible. This is like, what is this? This is not how I wanted to experience my first time at DCA. But you know what? I thought in my mind that these walls are up for a reason. They're creating magic. Eventually, these walls are going to be down, and I'll be able to experience what new experience Disney has to offer. That's my mentality of going into it.
The walls are a good thing because it shows progress. It shows investment. I get it. No one likes the walls. No one likes to look at the walls or have to navigate around the walls. But I mean, what's the alternative? I mean, fans were complaining for the longest time. Why isn't Disney doing something to address Epic Universe? Then they start to do stuff to address Epic Universe. They're announcing Cars Land and Villains Land and this thing and that thing. And now we're all going to complain about, well, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. It's like, we as fans, I think we have to sort of like what do we want, right? Do we want them to invest in these parks? Okay, if we want them to invest in these parks, then we're gonna have to put up with construction timelines. We're gonna have to put up with construction walls. We're gonna have to deal with some inconveniences in the short term. We might even have to lose something that we did enjoy at one time. It's investment means things are happening, but it's not always going to be something that you like. It might replace an old favorite. But that's all part of turbocharging. That's all part of investing in your park. I mean, Universal does it all the time. They take away stuff. We lost Back to the Future over here in California. I think you guys did too. We lost our ET ride for that stupid mummy coaster. I mean, things happen. You have to move. I mean, and I'm not faulting Universal for that. You know what I'm saying? But like, this is how these places work. You lose things sometimes. Sometimes the park is a maze of walls. It's all in the name of progress. And I just think that like as fans, we get so caught up in like we want the new thing and we want investments, but then when the investments come, then we're complaining about the process. It's like, come on, like what do we want here?
Mm-hmm.
Coaster is closed. So I'm sure that during 2025, this show will probably be very popular, but in 2026, 2027, whenever Rock and Roller Coaster does close, oh my God, it's going to be a ghost town. It's not going to be helping capacity in this park whatsoever. But there may be some hope for it just yet, as now I'm entering speculation territory. That's everything that Disney's announced that's basically coming through the end of the decade. It's not the greatest lineup of all time. However, there might be more on the way, as Disney announced that the former location of Galactic Star Cruiser, that Star Wars hotel that blew up right in their face, who could have saw that coming? But anyways, they're taking that location that has since been abandoned since the hotel closed, and they're turning it into new office space for Disney Imagineers. Now, this is important because, of course, that building is located just south of Hollywood Studios. And right now, there is an office building in the backstage areas of Hollywood Studios where many of these people work that is right behind Star Wars Launch Bay and Animation Courtyard. Is it possible that the people who will be moving into this new office space in the former Galactic Star Cruiser building are currently working in this building right now? If indeed they are, that would mean that this building would be up for grabs for Disney to loop into the park itself. Right. Meaning that there could potentially be plans in the works for Animation Courtyard to actually go in the near future, because then they could go ahead, replace Animation Courtyard.
Right. And that's why we were saying earlier on in this video, we don't know the whole plan. We don't know the 10-year plan. So it's easy to say, hey, why don't they just put Monstropolis here? Well, I mean, yeah, technically maybe they could, but we don't know. This might be earmarked for something totally different, which is why they're doing the Star Cruiser into the Imagineering offices and kind of getting that ball rolling. And then in 5 years, something else comes in here. So there's moves being made, but we're not privy to all the information. And just because as fans, we're not privy to it doesn't mean that things aren't being done behind the scenes. Exactly. So, and he's saying it here, and I agree with him. We've talked about this. You mentioned it to me, and we talked about this, how that might signal the move of these office buildings over here, this office space over here. So if that is the reason why, then they have a plan for Animation Courtyard. They're just not ready for it yet.
Yep, that is true.
And loop in this office space behind them, making for much bigger land in this space, and also allowing them to connect up this new Animation Courtyard land into the back of Rock and Roller Coaster, meaning that not only will Rock and Roller Coaster get more foot traffic as a result, but this villain show could get more foot traffic as a result. And the more foot traffic that these attractions get, the more their capacity can actually go to work for the park. Not to mention, of course, that any new land or attraction that takes over this space would ultimately be a huge help to the park and would more or less act like an expansion, because what's there currently is doing nothing for your capacity whatsoever. But perhaps that is a bridge too far, and maybe it's just wishful thinking.
I don't
Maybe
think so.
I'm thinking too many steps ahead here for Disney. And if we just look at what Disney actually has committed to doing through the end of the decade, it's quite frankly, this is a complete mixed bag. There's some positives here, like the expansion that's being added on to the Monsters Inc. land with the roller coaster taking place in the parking lot.
My issue with that is that he's only showing what's going into Hollywood studios, and he's saying that this is what's going to go in for the next decade. That's just right now for Hollywood studios. That's not adding Tropical Americas for Animal Kingdom. That's not adding the Zootopia show into Animal Kingdom. That's not adding all the projects in Magic Kingdom, the Cars Land area, the villains, the new pirate bar kind of thing. He's only like looking in through one lens of like throughout the decade only with Hollywood studios. And yeah, right now it does look a little bit bleak, but we don't know what's on the horizon for the next 5 years.
Yeah, and this stuff, you're right, is you have to look at it. You have to look at it from the bigger picture, zoom out, because like earlier on, he mentioned like the competition with Epic Universe, but Epic Universe is going to be competing not just with Hollywood studios.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So people book Walt Disney World vacations and what have you, which includes the other parks as well. And it's part of the equation. And Epic Universe and Universal, they got their issues too. They absolutely do. Universal has really not invested too much in those two existing parks really for like a decade. I mean, we had the last big expansion at Universal Orlando was Diagon Alley over a decade ago. Yes, we got Velocicoaster. Yes, we got Hagrid's. We got the new little DreamWorks land, you know. That probably cost them $37 to build, you know. But like there hasn't been a huge amount of investment in those two current Universal parks. And Universal is very worried about cannibalization. You know how you know they're worried? Because you can't just buy an Epic Universe ticket when it opens. You can't buy it a la carte. You know why you can't buy it a la carte? Because they know if they could buy it a la carte, everyone would just do that, and their other two parks would suffer greatly because they know they haven't properly invested in those other two parks, and no one gives a crap about those other two parks right now. Everyone wants to just go to Epic Universe, and those other two parks would fall to the wayside if they weren't packaging Epic Universe with the other two. The problem with and it seems like on paper, oh, that's brilliant, OG, they're packaging it with the other two. But are families willing to spend that much time at Universal when the other two existing parks over there haven't really added anything? Are those other two parks, are they worth losing Walt Disney World vacation time over? For a lot of families, no, it's not. Mm-hmm. And if they can't go to Epic Universe a la carte, then they might just opt out of the whole Universal experience together, because if we're going for Epic Universe, but I don't want to commit to 3 days over there. So believe me, there's plenty of issues over there too. It's not all, rainbows and sunshine over there. There's issues there too, so.
And people might just wait to say, you know what, we'll wait till Epic Universe is a la carte. And if they do, there's longer wait times for Universal to pick up on any capitalization. And so what is people going to do? Oh, we'll go over to Disney.
Exactly. So yeah, it's the Epic Universe thing. And like, to be fair to Universal, I think fans have really blown up the expectations for that park, and that's actually been detrimental to Universal.
Yeah,
like it's been overhyped, and the expectations as to what it's going to do for the industry has been completely overblown to unfair levels. That it's to the point where it's like it's not going to live up to those standards. We talked about so many times on the channel with the Donkey Kong coaster. That was literally the selling point for so many people for that entire park. And you watch the POV, and it's a really cute kid coaster, but it's like, this was the big game-changing thing that everyone was talking about, this thing?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man.
You have two other rides in the same land that are geared more towards kids. Like, all three attractions are geared towards young kids, which nothing wrong with that. But even like how we were mentioning earlier at Hollywood Studios, there's a lot of thrill rides. You need to you have to find a balance for something for everybody. And I feel like the Super Nintendo world, as I said, it'll probably be a big draw just because of its name goes, but I think as time goes on, I don't really see it being the most popular land in Epic Universe. I don't.
No. Yeah, I don't either. Because we have a big chunk of it out here already in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And it's nothing spectacular. I mean, I think Mario Kart's a fun ride, but I don't think it's as good as Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway.
I agree.
And Super Mario World, Super Nintendo World is basically another Toontown in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
Well, here's the thing: you might as well. You might as well call it Super Mario World because
that's all we got.
That's basically what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I'm not here to like just shit on Universal, but I'm just saying if we're gonna bring up Universal, right, and we're gonna bring up the competition, you have to compare them then, right? So their park over there isn't perfect, and their situation isn't perfect. We don't have a perfect situation either here, but so that's what we're dealing with, though. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, that's fantastic. But there's also a lot of cons here. Replacing Muppets, sending Rock and Roller Coaster down for a year again, even after it was just down for several months across 2 years, and dedicating a lot of your resources to rethemes and reskins when that doesn't address the core issues of the park. But when you go ahead and you melt it all down and throw it all into the same pot, I do think that the park will be improved by the end of the decade, but just barely. I don't think if you look at the park after all these additions are added in, I just cannot imagine that's going to be much better than what the park is today. It's only going to have slightly more capacity. It's only going to have slightly more things to do. And that's just not going to go ahead and make a substantial dent into these issues. These issues are still going to persist by the end of the decade. And I'm thinking if you're competing against Epic Universe and what that park has to offer, and presumably
that's not going to stop the people from going. Because if you look at the wait times already, as I said, with Slinky Dog, with Tower of Terror, with Rise of the Resistance, they go up to 140-minute waits at times. On a slow day, you're looking at an 80-minute wait for Slinky Dog. So honestly, when Monsters, Inc. comes into play, reservations for Harryhausen's, you probably won't be able to get a reservation for that restaurant. For the Monsters, Inc. door coaster, I could see that easily being an 80 to 100-minute wait. I can't imagine them opening up that ride and it's going to be people just going to go walking in for a standby line. They're going to have to add a virtual queue for that thing.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing, though, to play devil's advocate, he's talking about capacity and stuff. So a lot of those wait times might be due to the bad capacity, too, though.
Oh, yeah, that is true. Yeah, that is true. But again, in Disney's good time, we don't know what their plans are.
We don't.
For the next half of the decade.
We don't know exactly. And these areas like Animation Courtyard or the expansion pads or whatever could be things, and maybe not. I mean, we're speculating, but I mean, it's likely they have a larger plan that we're not aware of. And these other areas are already spoken for other properties.
But I do agree with him. As I said, just gaining capacity in general, that is the main focus that all these parks need to have, because the demand for it is so high, and by adding more stuff, it's going to draw more people in. So you need to add more space for park operations go. So yeah, I definitely agree with him in that sense that one of the main goals is you want to add capacity and to expand out these parks in order to do so. Right,
which is why the Cars Land, Villains Land thing is actually really smart in terms of capacity, because now you're getting more people, that you're going to funnel more people through those two lands than you ever would have for the Rivers of America. Exactly. So from a capacity standpoint, that Cars Land is like primo. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I know the nostalgia, I get it, but like from a capacity standpoint, it's massive, absolutely massive.
It's going to have that new car smell.
Exactly. That new car smell, I never tire of that,
Yeah.
The existing Universal.
I just love the smell so much. It's almost exhausting,
Parks that are going to be adding those
jokes you don't run out of gas with, do you?
No, you don't.
Changes throughout the end of the decade after Epic Universe opens. I just can't see how Hollywood Studios is going to have a successful end to this decade, even with all these new additions. And I think ultimately what this is setting up for is an Animal Kingdom type situation. As in 2017, Animal Kingdom opened up Pandora, the world of Avatar, a huge addition and expansion to this park. It addressed a lot of the core issues that Animal Kingdom was facing at that time. It added more things to do. It added more themed environments. It added more rides to the park, making it more like a theme park and less like a zoo.
Disney's Animal Kingdom, it's many, many things, but remember, it's not a zoo!
Yeah, okay. But ultimately, leading up to this land opening, Animal Kingdom's attendance was pretty much abysmal, right? It was not doing anything. It was staying low. And that's kind of what I'm expecting to see out of Hollywood Studios leading up to the opening of Monsters, Inc. Land, as well as this re-themed rock and roller coaster. As one, not only do you have competition in the space now with Epic Universe, but of course, the parks that have a lot of attractions closed. So that's going to keep a lot of people away while they wait for these new attractions to open. But I do think that, like Animal Kingdom, when Pandora opened, Hollywood Studios will see a huge spike in attendance once Monsters, Inc. Land finally opens. As not only will it be shiny and new, but it will also go ahead and at least slightly address the core issues of the park. In fact, this spike was so significant for Animal Kingdom that they went all the way to the second most attended park in all of Orlando after Pandora opened. That's how big of a deal this was for Animal Kingdom and how much it changed the perspective of people around this park. However, do you know where Animal Kingdom's attendance sits today? Not only is it not the second highest attended park in Orlando, it's not even the second highest attended park in the Disney World chain. In fact, it is the lowest attended park, not only between Disney, but also lower than the two existing Universal parks at the moment. Only just a few years after Pandora came out and changed the perspective of this park, how could it have fallen off a cliff so quickly? Well, one, of course, the newness factor of the land wore off, but also there were still core issues with this park. It still had a lack of things to do, as evident by the fact that it has less rides and less attractions than Hollywood Studios of all things. And it also has a problem of a lack of high quality attractions, but that's a problem that Hollywood Studios doesn't have, and that's a whole nother story. But the point being is that if Disney thinks that these additions are going to be the end all be all for Hollywood Studios, it's going to improve the park's attendance, it's going to keep it high up there for a long time to come, and this is all it needs for the next 5 to 10 years, and the park will be chilling. You are dead wrong. Okay, you are setting this park up for essentially what is a pump and dump, where it gets a spike up in attendance when the new
I don't
open,
think that's
and then things
Disney's.
fall rock
I don't
bottom.
think that's Disney's
I don't either.
mind process at all.
I don't think that's the mentality for this. No.
Yeah,
I think
I don't see them like making those shows and attractions and ride in the new land and everything, and then they're going to be like, okay, we're going to call it a day at Hollywood Studios. That's just the beginning. That's just the tip of the iceberg for the first 5 years. As I said, for the other 5 years, I can't foresee them not doing anything substantial with everything that even he had been mentioning in this video, with moving the staff and Imagineering over to Star Cruiser, alleviating up that office space, combining it into Animation Courtyard, breaking the barrier between that and a walking path to where Rock and Roller Coaster will be, partial of the parking lot, and then even eventually down the road, maybe move the offices off property and utilize that Star Cruiser area. There's so much potential that Disney can do that I don't see Disney just taking those few projects and then wiping their hands and saying, oh, well, good job, everyone, let's call it a day.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's not this isn't the end all be all at all with that. I think they know they need to do more, and they will.
Because the park is still going to be facing its core fundamental issues that we've been talking about all day, even once these new additions come into play. So you have to keep your foot on the gas pedal and keep adding new things, replace Animation Courtyard, look into expansions for this park as well. Hey, please. And go ahead and actually finally tackle these issues that have been plaguing this park for decades now. Please, I'm begging you, all right? There's a lot of great quality rides at this park. I wish that the park itself actually ran a lot smoother. And I know that's going to be hard for Disney to actually, commit to, considering that they have such massive projects going on at the other parks, in particular Magic Kingdom. But they really need to, or else Hollywood Studios is going to be destined to be rotting at the bottom of the Orlando theme park market attendance-wise. So, anyways, let me guys think in the comments. What do you guys think of Hollywood Studios' future slate?
Great content creator. Oh, go ahead.
It's quite interesting. As I said, there's a lot of things that I agreed with him, a lot of things that I disagree with him. But as I said, it was an interesting for a conversation, like through different optic views. But as I said, I can see Disney. I could see Disney not like rolling up their sleeves and just doing this, and then, as I said, exiting the door. This is
No.
just the pinnacle point, the startup point of just like what they have planned. And again, you're just looking at one theme park. You have to look at all four theme parks as this massive resort complex. As I said, Tropical Americas, Villains, Cars, Monsters Inc. You got to look at everything in the wider scope.
Well said. Yep, absolutely. And shout out to Attraction Ideas for a great video. I actually subscribed today. I found out about this video from you and our buddy Slimer, and I like the content. I really, really do. He brings up some great ideas, some great viewpoints. I don't agree with him on everything, but that's the fun of it, right? You don't want to agree with somebody on everything. It's more fun when there's a little bit of that variety of different perspectives, right? So absolutely, go ahead, everybody, and subscribe to Attraction Ideas if you're not already. I'll be linking it in the description down below. George, yeah, interesting video. I really, really enjoyed it, and there's a lot of cool stuff that he brought up.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone who watches, please comment down below. Tell us what you're thinking. Tell us what you're thinking, your thoughts, your opinions. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Do you agree or disagree with Attraction's ideas? All that we ask is please keep it civil in the comments. We do not want this to be a back and forth bashing fest. That is not what the purpose of this video is. We should all be able to have a conversation and be civilized over it. So please, we just ask, please keep it civil in the comments, but we would love to hear from you.
Well, if we can do a video on the DEI news, this is small potato. We won't have no issues, I don't think, with this in terms of arguing or whatever. That DEI video, though, we haven't even released it yet, and we'll see how that is. I got to monitor the chat on that one, I think, a little bit more.
I have to watch that one. Yeah, of course. But OG, my bro, thanks for joining me on this Citrus Corner. It's been a while. I'm so glad. I mean, I did a couple Citrus solo videos, but it's glad to actually do a Citrus Corner collabo again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Great conversation. Great content creator with Attraction Ideas. I subscribe. Definitely going to check out more of his content. I would love to react to more of his stuff too. Does he basically, I think he does, let me check real quick. I think he does mostly Florida.
I believe so.
Yeah, it looks like he does. He recently did a video a week ago about Zelda, Universal, which is Florida, Epic Universe, Potter. Yeah, it's mostly, it's all Florida stuff. So that's cool. That's cool. We cover Florida here on the channel as well. So that's awesome. We'll definitely do more reactions. I like it. I like his style. I like his mindset. He's nerdy like we are. He dives into the nerdy stuff. You know what I'm saying? So definitely would love to, because we have a lot of West Coast creators that we react to, but we don't react to a lot of East Coasters. Well, we got Jack, DSNY, and Drew, but that's it, I think, right? I think pretty much for our reaction.
And even really, even though that they're based in for Walt Disney World, they still cover both coasts. I don't know if we actually have just a only driven person for Florida.
It's true. Very, very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on, brother. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
And you can find me. I forgot. You can find me on X, Orange Girl 55, Instagram, Orange Girl 55, Blue Sky, Orange Girl 55, and obviously right here on YouTube, Orange Girl 55.
Awesome. And again, thanks to Attraction Ideas for making the video that allowed our video to be possible. And thank you to our brother Slimer for bringing it to our attention. It created a great conversation. And thank you everyone for tuning in. And as I always say in Italiano style, stay safe, stay healthy, stay Disney. Italiano out.
Thank you for watching OG55. If you aren't already, consider becoming a member today.